always like driving to the customer's location, right? Like it'd be like a 34. Yeah, I'd like driving there, and then once I'm there, I'm like, oh damn, now I gotta work. And welcome back to another podcast episode. We have Mr. Good Sir Lex here in the building.
Good morning, everybody.
And we are gonna talk about how we tackle different services based on a few different criteria. As you may know, we do have a mobile unit, meaning a mobile van, and we go out to the customer's location. We also have a shop, and customers can drop off their vehicle here. And we have, fundamentally, it's the same setup as far as the shop to the van, but there are things that we do differently if we're mobile versus shop-based. And this is something we get asked quite a bit about, like, how do you do a process? How do you start? And it's a little bit of a different answer depending if they're referring to, if we're doing it like shop-based, that's a whole different, not a whole different setup, but as far as how we're able to run that setup is much different than a van. And then we'll kind of talk about how we kind of tackle jobs, more so just like interior cleaning, and the biggest question is like, where do you start first, the interior or exterior? So we'll go right into it, Mr. Lex, since you are the one that's head of operations over there. When we're gonna work on an interior cleaning, and not even that, I'll just ask you what. Literally, it's funny. Like, this is the main question I get. If you're doing interior and exterior, where do you usually start?
Interior.
Now, break it down. Is that every time? Is it if it's like mobile, if it's shop, if it's the weather, if it's correction, coating, and then interior, or I just break it down?
Yeah, for the most part, it's always gonna be the interior first. Usually the interiors. No, you want to get the inside of the vehicle all cleaned up and then close the doors and don't have to worry about it again. Also, with our process, we like to blow out the interior. So if we start on the exterior, during that blowing out process, we would probably get like dust and stuff back on the exterior of the car. So we'll be working over ourselves.
Yeah. So typically for them, unless it's maybe like a weird weather situation where it's like, we should knock out the interior first. I mean, there's just like, it's more so like specific, like very specific situations where like, nah, let's actually start with the exterior first.
Yeah, for example, like on correction and coatings, if they added like a light interior cleaning, we could do that before we apply the coating. We'll just get over with the exterior portion of the car, which is the most work. The most work done first, and then all the little stuff.
Yeah, so for us, typically whether it's mobile or shop, we are starting off with the interior first, unless it's a specific situation. Okay, so what's the different setup between our mobile setup for interior? Let's say for interior, let's say what's the difference? Actually, just fundamentally, right? Shop versus mobile. What are the differences that what we could do at the shop versus what we could do at mobile? Kind of compare, contrast those two things, like how we're able to run our jobs.
On mobile, we are a little bit more limited on the tools we could use. We have to share things more. Like, for example, the vacuum. There's only one vacuum, so we have to either share that or strategize who uses it and when. Whereas the shop, we have two vacuums, so we could both be vacuuming at the same time. Same thing for the extractor. The mobile van, there's only one extractor, so only one person can be extracting. Whereas in the shop, we can plug in two extractors. Same thing with the steamers, the air compressor. You can put two reels in the van, but we only have one reel for the or air hose for the air compressor. So yeah, that would be the biggest differences between mobile and shop.
Yeah, because and even on that part, like our air compressor in the shop is 17 gallons or 16 gallons, and it is, I forget the exact specs, but essentially it's bigger and stronger. Mm-hmm. Whereas in the mobile van, it is the rigid 2.5 gallon, whatever one it is, which is like the most popular one that mobile retailers have. So also it's also the capacity of what we can load is much different too, because like like I said, like we have two air hose reels in the shop, we have a bigger air compressor. We are able to have just basically more things available for us versus the van, which we could 100% put two air hose reels in there. But it's just space in doing it, and we're not as mobile anymore. So we're not like going all out on the mobile build anymore. Not even all out. Our mobile setup is set up pretty well right now. But with the vacuum thing, like in the van, and we technically do have two vacuums. We have the main Johnny Vac, which is a stronger, bigger one that does all the lifting. And then we have the battery-powered vacuum, DeWalt one, but we primarily use that for the final vacuum. not to actually remove the heavy amounts of debris on there.
And also in the shop, everything is already set to go. You have everything on the side. Your chemicals, your machines are all plugged up, so you don't have to spend any time unloading. Things like versus the van, you have to unload. If you don't have a reel, you have to unload the vacuum, plug it in, unload. The air compressor if you don't have it already set up that way. Whereas the shop, everything's already set to go. You just turn it on, start using it.
Yeah. So in that regard, yeah, it's and like it definitely does help that we have everything on reels. So for us, the air hose is on a reel, the pressure washer hose is on a reel in the van. The vacuum hose is on a reel, the extractor hose is on a reel. So the extension cord is on a reel. So all the 5 things that you would use to pull out, it is on a reel. And if you don't have reels, it does make it a lot more cumbersome to like uncoil those things every single time, depending like how good of the quality it is. It's gonna get kinked up. Like you gotta like the water still dripping out of the extractor one, or if you're using a hose, like it is cumbersome. And don't get me wrong, we've gone through that for many years. But that's another kind of big difference between what you're able to do at a mobile and shop, and just flat out, like it is far more comfortable to the 10th degree to work out of the shop versus the van.
Yes.
Now, if it was up to you, would you always say shop versus van, like 100% every single time?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If clientele wasn't a factor or money or anything, it was just shop or van.
Yeah, because it's just far easier to do that. I will say though, when you're at the right mobile spot, it's like a lot more relaxing.
Depending where you are.
Yeah, I'm saying like like those times where like we work at like maybe this like kind of like very suburb neighborhood where like there's only like 1 or 2 houses there, and like quiet. It's completely empty, quiet. It's a nice day. Like a shop cannot match that.
No,
that level of like scenery, I should say. Like it's nice weather, it's a breeze, no one distracting you. It's a good customer there. It's a nice area. You're gonna pass by food on the way back. Like a shop doesn't match like as far as like because honestly, like after a certain time, like you're like, oh, we're just a shop now. Like it's just like same 4 walls there, equipment's there. Like that's the big thing of mobile. Of like, it just feels like good to get out, of
explore.
Yeah, like let me just good. Like I'm finally going somewhere else. And I even remember Jeremy Stevens from Shine Supply. I remember I saw like an Instagram post or something that he did of when he used to be mobile, and he was saying like he misses it so much, like going out to different locations. It's like it's true. Like that is one like I always like driving to the customer's location, right? Like it'd be like a 30 port. Yeah, I'd like driving there, and then once I'm there, I'm like, oh dang, now I gotta work. But
can't wait for the drive back.
Yeah, the drive is always fun part. And there's been a few times when I was on my own, of like I'd have like a correction call or some big detail or whatever, and it's like 8, 9, 10 p.m. no traffic, and I'm just driving back, windows down, like tired, long day's work, just got paid like $700-800, and I'm
11 p.m. coming back from the Woodlands.
This is nice. Like I like this drive here. Yeah, and it's funny because sometimes when I am driving to the customer's location, I forget I'm going to work because I'm just like chilling. Like it's like like 20 miles just down, whatever, or like whatever the case may be.
Just a nice little cruise.
Yeah, and it's just like, oh, I'm just chilling here, and they're like, oh, it's 9 o'clock. I gotta get to work now. Yeah, so that part definitely like it's always a nice little. I don't really go out mobile that much, but in my head, that's always what's nice for me.
I did discover a lot of cool places that I didn't know were there.
Yeah,
just by driving around.
Yeah, just by driving around, you're like, oh, cool. Like there's a little thing. Yeah, like so that's a big plus in my eyes. So now let's move over to the actual detail process. So when we're, let's say, now for sure, for the most part, the process stays the same between shop and mobile. It's just how you actually, the exact steps that you take might differ. Just as we said, you have a few more limited things that you can do mobile as far as the equipment that we have versus shop. Yeah. So let's say, for instance, at a mobile job site for interior deep cleaning, right?
Favorite.
What's the like? Yeah, just in very, because I'm gonna ask you how do we do that at the shop.
Okay.
It's only gonna be like a very. Actually, we'll actually go step by step.
Yeah.
You cover mobile, I'll cover the shop part. So mobile part, interior deep cleaning for mobile. What's the first thing you do?
First, we take out the customer's belongings. Both of us, we just gather everything. Usually, they do a good job of taking it out, but they might miss a few things in there. Something's under the seat, something in pockets they forgot. take them out, put them in bags, and then put them aside. Usually put them inside the van, the passenger seat. That way we don't forget it. You know, you can sit down and be like, "Oh my god, these
Yeah.
go in the car." Um, and then since we're a bit limited on our tools, one person will start blowing out the interior with the air compressor, the air gun. The other person will start vacuuming, if they're carpet mats, the floor mats outside of the vehicle. Now, while that one person is vacuuming the floor mats, the person who is blowing out the vehicle, by the time they're done vacuuming those floor mats, the one blowing out should be about halfway, um, blowing out the vehicle, which then the person vacuuming will start to vacuum the airs that have already been blown out. And then once the guy blowing out the vehicle finishes blowing it out, he'll start pre-spraying the floor mats while the person who's vacuuming finishes vacuuming the entire interior.
Yeah. So on the shop part, the biggest difference is it's the same process. The only thing is it goes much faster, just because at the shop, one side of the vehicle has the drill gun, has an air compressor, and has a vacuum, so they can work on the entire left side on their own without being dependent on the other person finishing anything up. So both sides at the same time have an air compressor with both each have a cleaning gun. Both are on reels. Then they both have the cordless drill with a drill brush on it, and then they both have a vacuum each on each side. So it's all the same thing. It's just now the setup is a bit different, because now they both, theoretically speaking, will finish at the same time of getting the debris out, and then they can both start, because now at the shop there's actually just one pre-spray pump, and one person will start pre-spraying all the fabric, whether just seats or whatever, and then either that person will agitate or the other person agitates, and by the time the person is done pre-spraying, the other person is whatever halfway done, and the other person gets the extractor ready to start shampooing.
I should probably name it like dog cat.
Oh yeah. How we name it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, in mobile, it's the same process. Once that one person's done blowing out, he'll start pre-spraying what has already been vacuumed, and then once the person who's vacuuming is done vacuuming, he'll start extracting what's already been pre-sprayed.
Yeah. So and at some point, like it's not like one full thing gets done first and then you go to the next one. It's like whatever the person has done, that person starts the next thing, and then whatever that person doing will finish that and then go start the next thing. So there is a little bit of overlap. Like one person might still be vacuuming the last bit of debris, and the other person already started spraying debris, and some of that someone started spraying the pre-spray onto the fabric, and maybe some of that pre-spray gets on the debris, but you're still gonna vacuum it up, so it's not a big deal. But it's like whenever you're running in the team settings, like as something is finishing, something should be starting, or as something is basically like that. So as something is finishing, something else is starting. It should never be like, oh, I'm waiting for that guy or a girl to finish up so we can move on to the next one. It's always as something is finishing, something else is already starting. So there's gonna be overlap in the process, but that's what keeps things kind of going.
Yeah, and after that, once they get through the whatever pre-sprayed, while that one person is extracting, that one person who pre-sprayed it will now start on the plastics and vinyl.
Now, as far as plastics go, is there a particular? Obviously, I know the answer, but it's just a setup for the conversation. For the plastics, does that person start on any plastics from rear to front, on the door panels? How does that usually play out?
So typically, it's from rear of the vehicle, work your way forward. But sometimes you can get in the way of the person who is extracting because they're inside the cabin of the vehicle. So for the most part, they'll do all the door panels since they're outside of the vehicle. You'll never kind of get in the way of the person extracting. So it'll be door panels and trunk area first. And then by that time, the extraction should almost be finished. He should be on his last little section. And then you can just start moving inside the vehicle without getting in the way.
Yeah, and that really comes down to just communication. And also, after so many details that you do with the team, with the other person, you guys start to build that frequency, that kind of that self-check of okay, without even really talking, there's a back row, he's going to have to shampoo the trunk or the rear of the vehicle. So obviously I'm not going to start from the back because he's going to be there. So I'm going to start on a door panel or somewhere and then work my way around and whatever. It's one communication, but the two, after so many times that you detail together, you'll start to pick up of okay, clearly I'm not gonna start from the rear to front because there's stuff
there.
there. Yeah. Also, one thing I like to do is like if we usually start from rear to front, but on this vehicle, like the door panels are just like hammered, like they're just really, really dirty. I would just go straight to the door panels to knock out the heavier part that needs to get taken care of. That way, once like for me, it's like I always like to tackle the things that are gonna take the longest or they're gonna be the hardest, just because once you knock that out of the way, you're not like, oh, okay, like we got the hard part out of the way,
and that's when you have your most energy.
Yeah, and
the beginning of the detail,
and that's something that I came up. That's how. The thing that made me realize that was like with productivity wise, like whenever you're trying to like get your stuff done in the day, you always have the most energy at the start of the day, and once you knock out like the big things you have to do in the beginning of the day, then one you're like, okay, like I knocked out the big thing, so now I can go handle all of the smaller stuff. So same thing with your detailing of like if like let's say I don't know, let's say shampooing is like the thing that takes the longest, right? But then you go do you do the door panels first, you do all the plastics, you clean the glass, and then you choose to do all the fabric surfaces. It's like, first of all, that's like very inefficient because you're gonna get everything else like slinging everything. But then two, it's like you finish everything, but you still have the biggest thing to take on, which is the vacuuming, the debris, the shampooing. So that's why for us, whether it's interior, exterior, unless like it has to make sense with the process though. Like, so maybe the correction and coating is obviously going to take the longest time, but it's a mini interior detail. So we're still going to knock that out first because it's so quick, it's so easy. Just get that out the way. And then we're going to get started on the correction and coating or the whole prep and everything. But
another thing that kind of changes up the process would be the door jams, especially mobile.
Right.
Really bad. We always choose to pressure wash them because we're not going to sit there for 20 minutes just wiping them down. We'll just pressure wash them. So we'll do that first before we do anything else, because you're gonna get the interior wet.
Yeah. Pause. So yeah, so that's what. Yeah, and like if they just need, if the door jam just need like a little wipe down, like a little bit of dust, we'll do that at the end. A little, a quick detailer, wipe down with a towel, done. But if they are like dry or just a lot of gunk on there, yeah, we'll just, and that way we can get the interior a little wet, like the cloth and stuff.
You don't want to shampoo and clean door panel and then have to re-wipe it down.
Yeah. So that's So if the door jams are dirty, we will tackle that part on first, just because it just makes a lot more sense.
Especially the trunk jam. That gets everything.
And the good thing about that too is that like since you are doing it first, you don't really care if you get. Well, I mean you're gonna care, but like you're not worried about like, oh, there's a little bit of dirt in that water and like now it's on the fabric. Like you're gonna clean that up anyway. So it's far more easier everything to do it before you start cleaning the interior, just because you're like, I'm gonna clean it up anyway, so it's not a big deal. Exactly. So now let's take it over to the exterior. So let's say we have an engine cleaning, a color and a wash and wax and a headlight restoration. Okay, 2-man team, right? Mobile. How did that work out? Engine, headlights, and wash and wax.
So on that one, I would start with the headlights. Reason being, we sand headlights, so when we sand them, you're gonna get all that old clear coat, white milky residue dripping on the front bumper. So you definitely don't want to clean the car first and then get it dirty again with that clear. So we'll do the headlights first. Get everything all messy. We'll wet sand, we'll polish, but we won't coat them because obviously a freshly applied coating you can't get wet.
Yeah.
So we'll get to the coating part, but we won't actually coat it. And then we'll do the engine. Do the engine because when we rinse down the engine, we're gonna get splash on the fenders, on the front glass, on the front bumper. We're gonna get a lot of splash. Maybe some dirt might kick up. So we'll do that second. And then we'll get to the wash and wax. And, finally clean all the mess we might have made.
Yeah.
If you work backwards, you're gonna go back over everything.
And something else that we do is that we also, right after we clean the engine, we somewhat dry it. We don't fully dry it, but we somewhat dry it. And then we also dress it right there. Yeah. That way, like again, kind of with the same premise of like the door jams, you want to rinse them down first, and you're not worried about the dirt you get on the interior. If you go ahead and just give the first initial pass, we use a Quasar bottle, water based liquid, so we're able to mist it onto the engine bay. So we're gonna mist it all over the engine bay, and we're not worried about any overspray or like getting it on other because we're still gonna need to wash the vehicle. So
and you will get overspray.
Yeah. So once fenders and glass. So once we close the hood and we get to wash, like we're gonna wipe all that down anyhow. And then at the end of the detail, we'll give it another mist down if needed, or where the areas that do need it. Yeah. So that's how we do that, and then we just go into the wash and wax process,
And then coat the headlights last.
and then coat the headlights last. Yes. So that's that. Nothing. Not much really changes at the shop for that, does it?
No, it's pretty much the same process.
That's actually
for the shop.
just about
Yeah,
other
yeah.
than like it's just what we said earlier. But
And then we have to clean up the water at the end. Whereas mobile, you just let it dry.
yeah, that's true too. And also that being said too, mobile we have we use DI water at the shop. We don't use DI water. The mobile unit has the AR Blue Clean 630, I think it is, or 650 or 670, something like that, which you're able to adjust the PSI. It's overall a better machine. And in the shop, we're using the Karcher 1700, which is only $150. And the Blue Clean is like someone's like 700, I think.
yeah.
I think the one that gets like 620, 680, something like that.
And if you get the hoses and everything.
Yeah,
with it.
so it's a little there's a big price difference, but the quality is there. And one thing I do like about the Blue Clean, like I just said, is that it is you can adjust the PSI. So like for instance, when we are like, let's say that we or whatever the reason might be, but like let's say we don't need that much pressure on the engine bay or as much pressure, or let's say it's like it's more of a delicate engine bay, maybe like older engine bay. And we don't want to like just hammer it down with like high PSI. We will lower the PSI on the pressure washer to more just like simply like rinse it down like with a very weak rinse. That way, like we're still using the pressure washer, we're still gonna be able to rinse it down, but like it's the pressure's not there. It's just like a light little rinse down.
Perfect for door jams.
Yeah, and door jams too. Instead of just complete splatter,
Blasting
you just
door
lower it down. You're able to like nicely just rinse it off. So that's actually a cool feature. We don't use it that often actually, but when needed, it does come in clutch. And did we buy it for that, or because it said that, or why did we buy that one?
I think I did because I wanted an adjustable PSI.
Yeah, so the time we have used
I
it, it's
did.
like, oh, that's actually clutch. Like that does it. Or the times where like we forgot to do the door jams, and we're like, oh dang, like we just did the interior, turn that pressure down, and just nice and easy, like kind of put a towel so the splatter doesn't go into the interior.
Yeah, way less splatter.
Yeah, but if the interior has not been cleaned and we do it right, we'll just full pressure just knock it out. Yeah, because it doesn't matter at that point.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. Okay, so that's that. So that's the that's both interior, exterior. Now with mobile again, another big question is: are you able to do? You can correct vehicles, but can you coat vehicles outside mobile with no kind of containment for the vehicle?
Yes, and I've done it, and we've done it. But also depends on the coating you use. You obviously don't want to use like a hard to remove coating. But yeah, you can. And the way I do it is I panel prep the panel that I'm gonna coat. I prep it, panel prep, coat, buff off. Move on to the next panel prep, coat, buff off.
Yeah.
Just keep going like that for the whole car. Because if you panel prep the whole car and then you start coating it, you're gonna get some dust.
Yeah.
On the panels you just
Yeah, so it's definitely you have to finesse it quite a little bit. Like if it's a windy day, if you're in an area that gets a lot of dust, debris, if it's pollen season, like yeah, you prep the whole vehicle and you're sitting in the driveway, and by the time you get to that first panel again, there might be debris on there already.
Yeah.
So it's better like you got to finesse it. Like if there's a car garage, like if they could put the vehicle in the garage at least, and even if you still have the garage bay door open, but at least it's in the garage, at least you have like a lot of like, to some degree. So it's definitely doable. I mean, we've coated vehicles like just like in the open with like a tent with like two sidewalls on there.
The canopy.
Yeah, the canopy. Yeah. Like it's not ideal by any stretch of the imagination, but like
you can do it.
Yeah, like if you're mobile, like this is what you're doing. Like like you're gonna tell a customer, oh no, I can't because I'm mobile. It's like that's just like many other things. Like life is different when you're mobile versus when you're shopping. Like that's just how things go. So yeah, it's not gonna be like it's not gonna be as convenient or as easy, but it's 100% doable, right?
Doable, yes.
Yeah, so I guess we'll end it right here. Again, we actually are offering trainings now. Lex is leading some training classes. If you want to check out some trainings, you can click go to detailgroove.co/training, and that's the page to get more information. But it's kind of like a 1-day training of business and detail. It's more so like whatever you need help on. Like one thing I didn't like about general kind of training sessions that people have is that like they kind of go over things that the person already knows. You're kind of wasting time. Yeah. So it's more so like whatever you need help with business / detailing / operations. We'll kind of figure out what you specifically need. That way, like the day that you're here, you're getting absolutely all the information that you need that directly applies to your business, not so much on this like pre-planned agenda. Although you have a pre-planned agenda, of like just in case you're just like whatever. We'll know what to go through, and we'll basically just take you through our whole process of how we just how we talk to you just in more in depth, showing you. But it's really more so like what you need help on is what we're gonna cover. So if you're interested in that, you can click the link down below or go to detailgroove.co/training and get more information. Lex, thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me again.
And we will talk to everyone on the next one. Bye-bye.